All right, so we're having our coffee together that you make me every morning. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tonight I have an event. I have a mindful parenting workshop, which is an introduction to Prana Boost parenting. So I just thought it might be cool to hop on, and if there's any listeners interested, we could explain to them what my workshops are and what I teach and what that event is like. And it's help explain what partnership parenting is, which is the basis of my teachings.
Right.
Does this sound good?
Yeah.
So in it, I put on my flyers that I help people. This is what it says: learn to master mindful parenting through. And these are the, this is actually coming directly from my book that I'm writing, which is learn to master mindful parenting through unconditional love, intuition, nonviolence, and emotional intelligence. And this form of parenting is how we live.
I think you should read the top of this.
The top of this?
Kind of said the first paragraph.
There is a beautiful new way to parent. Are you ready to unlearn all you know about parenting? I'm reading directly from the flyer. Are you ready to have a family that works together to create a peaceful, respectful, loving, and sacred home? Are you ready to eliminate power struggles? Are you ready to build lifelong connections with your children? Allow me to share new parenting techniques that focus on mindful language, mindful thoughts, and mindful actions.
Yeah, that's just so powerful. I mean, it sounds like you could spend a lifelong just talking about that topic alone. So it'd be really interesting. Just give like a little maybe preview into, a little sample of what the workshop would be like, and just maybe cover a couple of those beautiful things.
Okay. So the term for how we live, kind of our custom lifestyle, I would say boils down to partnership parenting.
Right.
And it's a new paradigm of parenting where it's not authoritarian parenting, which is what we typically grew up with, which is power over somebody. Ours is power with somebody. So we pretty much decided to raise our kids in the same way that we treat each other in our own marriage, which is as a partnership, working together, solving things together, and doing that in a way that feels safe to everyone involved. So that is not without punishments, without violence.
Right.
That's the basis of all of it.
Seeing another person as equal, regardless of their age, and being cooperative with them, knowing that you're not, out to overpower them in any way.
Right. And overpowering them means bullying, because basically you're scaring them into behaving the way that you want, acting the way that you want. And now if we're talking to people who are pregnant or have little babies, they can't even comprehend what that might feel like to have conflict within the home. But it's important to know about these things so that you can set the intentions, because if you don't plan, if you don't intend, if you don't think about these things when you're pregnant, before you start your family, or when you have started your family and the kids are little, you won't have any skills to handle what's coming next and what happens as your family slowly evolves. So like for us, I remember in our relationship, and now let's tell everybody, listeners, we've been together this year almost 24 years together, which is a long time. I mean, we've grown up together and we've learned how to handle conflict together, and we've really shifted over the years because we've done the work to work as partners and understand that we're on the same team. Partnership parenting is something I also refer to as feeling your way through parenting. It's kind of like not knowing that you're not going to have the answers before, but feeling your way through it as you go through a scenario, and you know that you're on the same team. You're all on the same team. So now there's a lot of people who are going to say something like, well, my child is not my equal. They're a child. They're 1 year old. They're 2 years old. They're a baby. They don't know anything. It's true, but you're equal energetically. You're equal in a human way. You're equal in how you want to treat each other. You're not necessarily...
Well, and ironically, I have to infuse that in there. And spiritually, their soul might be an older soul.
Right. But what I'm saying is that you are treating them with the same love and respect that you would treat anybody that is your same age, including your partner or your spouse.
Right.
You're not treating them less than. So they don't need to get in trouble, and you don't need to scare them into behaving, and you don't need to give them consequences and discipline that harm them if you feel like they messed up or did something wrong.
Right.
They're equal, and you can't do that in your relationship.
And we've been successfully practicing this for 14 years.
Right. And it doesn't mean that it's easy, and it's definitely the harder route to go, but it's literally different than the way that all of us were raised. Let's give a couple examples, I guess. That would be a good thing to do. What do you think it's like for a kid to be raised in a home where they're never punished? Like no timeouts, no physical violence, no spankings, no...
Well, ironically, they learn self-control, and they learn that the environment they're in is very safe, right? So they're being authentic, and they don't have any kind of anxiety, that others might have. But I think the biggest thing is that for some reason, without teaching them, somehow they intuitively understand that cooperative means they pull their own weight in a way. They just kind of step up to the plate. Whereas if you start drawing all these lines and boundaries, that's when people feel limited and they just explode, really.
Well, we still do give a lot of boundaries. The way that I teach it is that I inspired people to become like a coach, like a transformational leader of their family. Like you have boundaries, you're their mentor, you're teaching them, you're guiding them, you're modeling behavior. Right. That's a big thing, is modeling, like I tell people to allow our family,
number one thing,
to be a model of possibility, because people say it's not even possible. It's not even possible to live this way, but it is, because we are. And it's a way of life that is rooted, honestly, in nonviolence. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're going through, whatever's happening, your solution and your actions and your speech and everything you use is going to be rooted in nonviolence. Right. How can you speak without harming somebody? I notice the energy that you bring to any scenario, if it's fearful rather than loving, can feel violent to a little kid. There were times when our kids were little, I remember talking to them and their shoulders would go in like this, and you could see that they were uncomfortable, and it was the biggest shock to me, because I'm thinking, I'm not hitting them, I'm not punishing them, I'm not doing anything. What are they reacting to? They can feel your energy. They can feel if you're loud. They can feel if you seem scary. They're feeling more than they're even hearing you, Right. So you can understand by somebody's body language how you talk, how you speak. So that's how we started to learn about all these,
And I like how
different ways.
From the very beginning, you said when we talk to the girls, you always come down to their level.
Right. So you would bend down and because
I'm 6'1", and
I used to tell you, you're like this big scary man at 6'1", and there you have these little itty bitty tiny girls,
right.
and you sound very loud because you have a deep voice, and it could sound very scary. So you come down, right. And then they know you're not above them. You're kind of like with them, and you're going to figure this out. So this lifestyle has boundaries, and it has loving guides, but there's no reason to punish anyone. Like when they were little, I would explain to them, they used to hit just like every kid hits, because it's a reflex. They used to hit or grab or things like that, grab each other's toys out of each other's hands. It only really
happened a few times.
Well, it happened, and the way that we dealt with it was different. I would explain to them, we're choosing not to hit in our family.
Right.
And why are we not doing that? And I would give them these long explanations. Even if they couldn't understand it, I would explain it so that they would start to learn. But
right.
We started to learn about nonviolent communication. We started to learn about what can we do rather than punishment. And I never felt good about timeout. I never felt good about leaving. I feel like putting a kid in timeout is like asking them to change their own diaper or make their own meal. Like they cannot figure out their emotions and their feelings alone. I used to do what people are now calling a time in. I used to just sit with them till they can calm down,
right.
And find ways to help soothe them. And then once you can calm them down and once you soothe them, you can figure out what to do next, and you can use that as a learning moment to teach them about why they were feeling that way or what happened even.
Right. So your intention, your presence, and just holding the space alone is a very powerful tool without even using any language. Just holding that space in your home is just so powerful.
Right. But it started with us having the intention of having a more peaceful home.
Right.
Than, let's say, some of us grew up with, where there might have been conflict or struggle, and it's not to say that we don't have that, but we handle it differently.
Right.
So this type of parenting is also about the evolution of the parent, not the behavior of the child. The behavior of the child is often a byproduct of something they're going through, or something that's going on within the house, or if there's any type of stress going on, or, kids can feel stuff. They don't even need to know what's going on. When there's conflict between the parents, or worry and fear and anxiety about jobs or money, or anything that has to do with life, it's so hard to say everything that we do in this little conversation. I'm getting distracted.
Well, just a little. This is just a little highlight, but
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that
It's parenting with love and connection. That's the
Right.
basis of it. That's what I wanted to say. It's parenting with love and connection. If you always have an intention to stay connected to the person that you love, your spouse or your child, then you will go about life in a different way. You will approach it differently. You will show up differently. And even if you hear your kids screaming and yelling, you'll remember in your head what is your intention, and you will manifest behavior and the power and the strength to move through that
Right.
in
That's
a
true.
healthy way.
Yeah.
A lot of times, but if you don't learn about a new way of living or a new way of parenting, you will go back subconsciously to all the ways that you were raised,
Right.
So like there are many parents who believe there's no other way, I have to spank them
Right.
because that's how I was raised and looked how I turned out.
And then they wonder why, when the kids get a little older, why they spank their siblings or they
Or
bully
hit their friends or
hit
bully.
their friends.
Yeah, it does. I believe bullying starts in the home because as parents, we're big and tall and
Oh,
in
I
charge,
agree
and
100%. Yeah.
we can overpower our kids at any point, and that is not our intention, and that's what we're teaching, is that if we're scared and we feel powerless, we should overpower the other person.
Right.
So, trying to inspire parents that there's other ways to live is really the basis of my events and my work and everything that I teach, and doing that in a way that feels good to everybody who lives in that home. So there's so many other things. We talk about mindful language, how you speak to the people that you live with, because what you say really matters. Like, it really sticks to them.
Yeah. And even when you're talking to each other or friends on the phone, they're always listening and responding.
Right. They listen to how you treat the waiters at the restaurant. They listen to how you are when you drive.
Really everything. It's
Right.
It's how you show up in the world, literally in every sense. How do you treat a pet? How do you treat a friend, a neighbor, really everyone?
Right. So I wanted our kids to know that we were on their side. We were on their team, no matter what. So even if, very early on, we taught them that they could say no to us. And our egos were like, what?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta say no to me? You gotta be kidding me. I'm the parent. And we had to get through that. We had to understand that was really our ego. We want them to be able to say no. We want them to learn from a very young age to follow their own intuition, and speak up and have a voice, and learn to listen to them and understand why they feel. With our kids, it's so interesting. Once they started getting older, they had such good explanations for what they did or why they did it or what they were doing, or they're like little gurus if we listen to them, if we let them guide us, and they really do guide us. Sometimes I'm shocked with what they come up with, but because we work together, we don't say, this is how you should do it. We say, what do you think? Or
Right.
What would you do? And then they shock me. I'm like, oh my God, I never thought of doing it that way. And that way totally works as well.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't easy. And, we didn't have much support. I remember my dad being here once, their papa, and somebody from at the table just goes, Mom, give me some ice. And he looked at her and he looked at me like, she's not going to say please? Because grandparents and other relatives are so interested in how you parent. And they're hanging on your every word. Like, are you going to teach them manners? And are you going to make them hug everybody, And
Right.
we never did that. We never forced anyone. And I live with them all day long. I don't need them to say please 47 times a day. Like,
Right.
Please and thank you. Like, and they
No,
still
it's-
have
it's-
manners.
It shapes their character, because if they
Yeah.
do things out of guilt or expectation, later they'll do it in school, they'll do it at work, and they grow up to be those humans that do things out of guilt and expectations. And that's not, something that I think, we don't really, we wonder why does it why does it happen, or how does it progress into that direction? But like you said, it starts at home at the very young age.
Right. And I wrote an article about respect, because parents have such a strong tie to getting respect and getting their children to respect them. And I always say it's so interesting, because us as parents, if we know so much about it and we know what it looks like and we understand it and we want them to learn it, we should be able to teach it really well. Like, but they don't.
Right.
They don't, like I think so. I always teach the number one way to get your children to respect you, which is kind of a joke because you can't get anyone to do anything, is to respect them.
That's right.
And many times people don't respect children. They think of them as lesser than, and they don't know anything. And so let's just summarize that we were trying to teach all of this. It's really choosing love instead of fear. And it's about connection, and partnership parenting is working together as a family, as a team. And even when kids are very, very little or babies, you are setting an intention for how you want your family to flow.
Right.
And what else would you say about it?
Just, be constantly have yourself in check, patience, cooperation, and just the realization that
it's not about being perfect, though. I have a lot of people that say, does that mean I have to be perfect? And, it's not about being perfect, but it's about having your own awareness of how you show up in the world, your own awareness of what you're saying, what you're talking about, what you're focusing on. And many parents only focus on the behavior and the emotions
but
of
also,
the child.
I'm always aware of the fact that the long-term consequence of this type of parenting is the fact that you are going to end up being best friends with your kids. So when they get a little bit older, they're not going to want to run away from you or never talk to you again, because you're always, trying to power or fit them into a square into a circle, right? If you're friends, and then they'll always come to you, and it will always be like that, regardless of what age they are. That, to me, that's really the most beautiful fruit out of all this.
Right. And you're also going to be sending peaceful, harmonious people out into the world who know how to handle conflict and know what emotional intelligence is, and they know about mindfulness, so that they can show up in the world like that when they drive, when they go to work, when they have families. So you're like creating a legacy of shifting parenting forever. And for us, that means everything to me. And many people will say they actually teach you not to be friends with your child, but I can't imagine not being friends with your spouse or your child. I don't want to have like my friends separate and my family is different. I don't think people understand what the definition of friend is.
Beautiful.
If they feel that way.
All right, so let's encourage our listeners to ask us any other questions,
and learn more about it. Learn more about this type of parenting. Learn more about this type of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because the benefits are beautiful.
And if anyone wants to find out more about Tina's workshops, visit pranaboost.com.
Okay.
Thanks for listening.